Good morning and welcome to the Capital Gang. I am Oscar Semoyamsoke, and this morning we have, as Moses Kaule would say, a bevy of topics for the Capital Gang. In the studio already I have Agather Atuhaire, AA. You're most welcome to the gang.
Thank you, Oscar. Yes, AA. Do not add me a third A. I am happy to be here.
And I have Derek Wanda, most welcome to Gang this morning.
Thank you, Oscar. Thanks for having me.
The big story of the week, Agatha, has been the demonstrations. Do you believe a demonstration happened? And the arrests, those ones for sure happened.
Yes, even the demonstrations, how people have insistently, but also not how Ugandans have all come out to defend. I have been call you and say, what do you need help with? Do you need a car? On the day of arrests, someone would ask, do you need a car to move around and look for people in these detentions? I think that alone should make this government realize this wasn't a non-event. It's many people, many Ugandans that are willing to work together. It's the first time I've seen Ugandans work together in that way, support each other in that way. No one cares who is in jail, no one cares where they come from and all that, but people are saying we have to support these Gen Zs. Yes.
So in your opinion, what were the successes of that demonstration?
Well,
just in case someone has not noticed the success.
Well, the first success was that it really exposed this government for what it is. If there's anyone who had any hope, who was still really thinking that this government, when it talks about fighting corruption, it is serious, that day showed that. I liked the headline in Monitor with the police and with the shield, and the headline was the shield against corruption. So that you have left the corrupt and you have turned this fight against those fighting against corruption, and you have filled these jails, because right now we have over 100 people in detentions. You have filled these detention centers and prisons with people that are saying fight corruption, but not the corrupt. That alone was a success to show that if there's any Ugandan who thought that the government is interested in fighting corruption, that stopped then. So from now on, people will know if we want to fight against corruption, if we want to push back, we'll have to do it another way than to expect the government to fight it. But also too, like I said, for me, my biggest win was what I already commented about, that I saw a country that stood together. I have always wanted something like that let's feel each other's pain. If Praise Aloikin is in jail, or Makana Kennedy, or Cheno, or Biwol, or Thomas, all that, let's all know that, me being out is just because I was lucky. Because they were not actually picking on the demonstrators. We went to court, Uganda Road. For me, I was just there because we had realized that now these young people are being taken to jail. I had taken some supplies. These are women. They need knickers somewhere in their they were menstruating and whatever. So I just got there to deliver that, and people were being rounded up, just being outside the court, and people were being pursued. So it's better that we all realize that the system is going to affect us in one way or the other, whether you demonstrate or not. And I think I saw that on starting on Tuesday up to now. People are calling saying, where do we send funds to help with the bail application? Where do we send funds to help with visiting these guys in jail and all that? And you're thinking, people are sending you 5,000, Someone is saying, maybe today let me not eat, but let me contribute to this. That is very powerful, and I am sure the government knows that. It knows that when people have come together, and that is something they should be worried about. And for the ordinary people, for me, that's a win.
Okay, that's your definition of a win. Most welcome to Gang, Honorable. I always struggle with them. Goreth. Have I got it right this time? Yeah, okay. Welcome to Gang, Honorable Grace Namuga. Most welcome here once again.
Thank you.
Derek, as I drove in this morning from the lovely bypass, as usual, I go up to Bukoto, the roundabout. That one is heavily guarded. So there's still, the city is still guarded and there's still heavy police deployment. Why?
Well, you're asking the wrong person. I'm a journalist.
You're the journalist, yes. So you're supposed to know.
But the city has been guarded for, especially after the 2021 elections. When you go around the old Chira police station, there's been always deployment. It has never ceased. The deployment of military, the military, and other security agencies. But yes, you're right. The city is now on high alert in most parts of the city, especially when you go downtown Kampala. When you come here around Kamocha, especially areas around Kavule, Najana Nkumbi, most of those stations where probably the police feels that there's going to be any kind of mayhem sprouting from there. There's a lot of guarding there and security deployment. It's not by mistake, honestly, to be fair, especially with what has been happening throughout the entire last week. The police just wants to make sure they do not leave any stone unturned, or they don't want to be caught off guard. The challenge is that even when they guard like that so heavily, they still are caught off guard. When they are on guard, they are always caught off guard. The reason is that because they are always using very false intel. The information that is always given to the public is that we have followed serious intelligence information to crack down on the protesters. I mean, these protesters never hide. They have been issuing letters to police and army and asking for permission to be protected, just like our constitution says that anyone who goes on peaceful demonstration should be protected by the police. So they issue letters, notices of intentions and of protesting. But then the police comes out and say, we are following intelligence information. I mean, what is so intelligent about that? That said, the city doesn't need to be guarded, in my view, because even the people who are guarding the city themselves know that they need to be guarded so much. Many of these people who are guarding the city in their police and army paraphernalia are youths, just like many of the people who have gone on the streets. They feel the pinch of some of the advocations of the youth that have gone on the streets. They are affected by it in their everyday livelihoods, in the way they sleep, the way they eat, the way they dress. It's just all over them. I mean, they need more protection than they are giving to the city. So, in as much as there is a lot of deployment, in my view, the youth have picked up their voices. They have realized their responsibility. They have gained the momentum and have the courage to face the powers that be, to tell them things that might actually sound very inconveniencing to them, and yet they very well know that this is the only way they can fetch themselves out of the situation in which they are. So, guard the city or don't guard the city, I feel the youth are saying a thing that if you are a sober-minded person, need to listen to them. You need to hear their voices, which I mean, they are not speaking rocket science. They're not picking things from Mars. They are not coming out to mention things that have not. They are not the first they're not the first people who are mentioning these things. I mean, these things have been in the public domain forever, and thanks to the likes of Agather, who have who have stood on those platforms to speak, to enlighten the public, to give that. Now, it's the Agathas who give the real intelligence. The police doesn't have any intelligence. In fact, they should be seeking some intelligence from some people who actually have it. Problem is, all they are doing is not right, and the youth have heard the things and picked them up. They've seen the things that have been splashed out there, the corruption, the mismanagement, the embezzlement that has been happening. I mean, they have picked it up and they're using that to call those in positions of power to account for whatever actions that they've made. In most cases, we've seen the president coming out and saying that, hey, I have information, I have seen the thieves, and I am going to grab them. And then tomorrow the youths are going to come out and say, the president has said he has seen the thieves, he's going to grab them, he's going to crush them. Now for us, we are here to say that, please, president, crush those thieves. Please, president, crush those thieves. Before you know, the president turns to crush the youths who are actually amplifying his voice. And now one wonders whether the president speaks from both sides of his mouth or not, on especially issues of corruption. Today, he is very bitter with his words in terms of fighting corruption. Tomorrow, his actions are very, very, very far away thrown from the person who was speaking the other day. It just beats everyone's understanding. And I am hoping that there are 100+ people who are in detention. I hope they can arrest about 10,000, and then all the prisons are filled up, and then they tell them, okay, go back home. And before they reach home, they are on the streets.
Someone here says, for Derek to say that the police need not provide security, how well qualified is he to make security assessments? Don't you think to say that we don't need that security is a bit reckless, Derek?
I don't think it's reckless, because you need to pick
security is very necessary.
You need to pick the context from which I'm speaking. If you're guarding if you're providing security against people who are fighting against corruption, then I mean you are just being bad. I mean, we need security overall, but to have security just because there are people who are going to fight against corruption, it's just mind blowing. It's something unthinkable about.
Honorable Grace Namuga, do you think the demonstration was successful?
Now, to ask a leader whether a demonstration was successful or not,
especially an opposition leader,
yet it's our responsibility to ensure that people do not demonstrate. One would ask, why do we have the youth at streets, all in streets? Why did we get there? That would be the first question. I think Ugandans should start getting interested into how the affairs of government are run. How do we run this country in the line of governance, the side of political leadership, and the side of administration? So many issues have been spoken about how government delivers services to the people, which is its core mandate. And severally, I've informed the country that we are at regret, one, in the type and the category of leaders we bring into power, in the side of politics and the side of administration. Yesterday, Mr. Museveni was at a burial of one of our colleagues, the member of SEC, the honorable colleague that passed away in an accident, and said, I will ensure that the children get employed. Children will get employed. So do you mean that those that do not have that capacity or that are not privileged to have access to the president, bury their parents, will never get jobs? Is that what you want to mean? We saw the speaker some time back, it was the burial of Honorable Katuntu's brother, where he said we shall ensure that the wife gets a job. How many of our colleagues, of our relatives have lost parents and government has not come to their rescue? So that's where we've messed up this country totally. Inequality in this country is a reason as to why everyone here is very vulnerable. Whether this time you are interested or not, you will one way or the other find yourself on the streets. I've been looking at the tribalism in the way government gives employment across board, administration. I've been looking at the bribery. How do we access some of these opportunities? The nepotism, the sectarianism.
And when you get to the 4 principles of the NRM, these are the issues that they've been talking about on paper. So, colleagues who are in this studio today, we have a lot to discuss out there in regard to the way our country is run. For me, basically, it gets back to what do we prioritize? Because if you don't give the youth the basic services, a common Ugandan, for example, look at the budget of all national referral hospitals, national referral hospitals, district hospitals in the whole country. I've been looking at the referral hospitals and the specialized. They have a budget of around 730 billion. When you get to State House, as State House only has a budget of 853 billion. And that was the financial 22-23. Those are the figures I've used because that money was spent. Get to defense, 4.3 trillion in defense. How much money do you spend in classified expenditure? So out of failure to allocate resources in the priorities of this country is the reason as to why you are seeing the youth on the street. And I'm telling you where we are going, we are yet to see more. If you look into, for example, the way we've given services, go to Mulago. Go to Mulago, the specialized women hospital. Women have to pay money for CT scan, basic services, you have to pay. Go to Mulago National Referral Hospital, you have to pay. But when you look at the total of all the non-tax revenue we collect from people, from the sick, non-tax revenue to a common Ugandan, it doesn't even get close to 50 billion. We are asking, can't government give free services to the Wananchi? Can't we get free services? We have been made very vulnerable in our own country at the expense of those occupying these offices. This income inequality, the gap between those who are so rich and the so poor. We have people who go to the pump, the fuel station. They don't even look there. People don't know the fuel prices. But for you, you have to count how much have I put. Please, I've put 20,000, but I'm not seeing the gauge move. You are still at that level. So when you come to the luxurious life, you must look at the critical matter the youth are raising. Parliament. Why is it Parliament? Most people, when we talk about it, people think we are going personal. I'll say this as somebody who has been in public service. Whenever we talk about some of the things, people say, Namga has been in politics for 3 years. You don't need to be in politics to understand how a country is run. There are people out there who have been following keenly, dot to dot, on how you allocate resources, on how you prioritize, but they are not occupying these political spaces. So one would question, why Parliament? Why Parliament? Because we are the representatives of the people. Administration of Parliament, I felt so touched when the business committee, when they had a meeting, and the Honorable Prime Minister said, I last attended the Parliamentary Commission last year, March. Parliamentary Commission. But the members of Parliament have been raising issues about the Parliamentary Commission ever since the exhibition started. They are saying administration of Parliament is simply too poor because you are the ones who oversee the operations of all other government agencies. You don't have the moral authority to look into how other agencies are spending the taxpayers' money in the line of accountability, yet you yourselves cannot account for the little that you are given. We are asking, where is Parliament in all this? I appreciate we have the 3 arms of government. And this thing of opposing for the sake of opposing, Museveni has these issues. But do you round it up and say Museveni is the source of all these problems? If we have the serious mess that there is in Parliament, is that Museveni has a problem? We've been talking about this 1.7 million, 7 billion, the service award. Is Museveni the problem in the service award? To some extent, yes, because we have people occupying spaces that they ought not to have occupied. But people don't want to talk about some of these facts because somebody is a friend. Whether one is a friend or not, we must come back and bring sanity in the line of public service, in the line of political leadership, so that as leaders we can become accountable. When you come to Parliament, one would question, if you're a member of Parliament, we have sectoral committees, we have standing committees, somebody spends 3 years without attending a single committee of Parliament, that you are a leader. We are the ones to ensure that government properly allocates resources to the different sectors of government. Where are you? So we shall always have the youth on the street because we have not served them. We seriously have a leadership gap in this country, whether you like it or not. Leadership gap. That is why we are messing it up. Yeah. And when it comes to the end of administration, one would ask, do you still advertise? And a common person who doesn't have connection in government gets that confidence that when I apply for this job, I'll get it, without struggling to see Agatha, without struggling to see Oscar, to connect me to somebody. Do we still have that confidence that you can apply for a job and somebody looks into your credentials and you are given a job on merit? Why do we have people occupying offices? Because they are known to somebody.
Do you think the people protesting can articulate all this the way you've put it together?
No, it is because the leaders, as leaders, we've become a disappointment. Let's give information to people. I remember Honorable Chagulanyi said one thing. For you who have the information, you've kept quiet. We've left the spaces for those without information. I'm telling you, they will fill it with whatever they have because you haven't given it out. We haven't.
And this time the focus for that demonstration was Parliament. And for the last 3 months, you would say Parliament has been looking ugly.
And the reason as to why it is Parliament, because people feel we are, not feeling, but we are their representatives. We must be their voice out there. For any information, they think Parliament would objectively give it than the executive. Mr. Museveni and his cabinet, Mr. Museveni, yes, is voted like us, but the ministers are appointed by a single individual. So a minister can't be accountable to the people. So if we are a people's parliament, we must look out to ensuring that we bring sanity to this country. Colleagues who are here, we have a very big burden. Whether we want or not, we've been collecting signatures. We now have them. For us, we are very committed. We hear people say, we shall bring money in the constituency, she will lose a vote. I'm telling you, I'd rather lose a vote, serve for a period of 5 years, but go home and sleep with sanity. We shall be counted, but during their time, they came out and spoke for the people. We are going to bring sanity in that house called the Parliament. It must represent people, not representing ourselves and our own views. And, people out there, Parliament is paid expensively, whether we are paid 5 million. I'm telling you, we spend out there because government has failed to execute its mandate. How can a member of Parliament buy an ambulance? How do we see members of Parliament construct hospitals? Since when did that become a responsibility of an MP? So, as we put sanity in Parliament, Mr. Museveni must know that he must prioritize this. He must prioritize the interests of the people of this country. And we are going to start with the budget of this very financial year, the 72 trillion budget. After looking into the issues of commissioners and ensuring that we have administration in the Parliament, serious administration, we are getting back to the budget. Tell us, how do we get here? How do we get to these funded supplementaries where you have a classified budget of over 400 billion classified, yet when you sum up the funding to all regional referral hospitals and specialized hospitals, they have a budget of close to 300 billion. How do you spend all that money on yourself in classified? Yet we are not giving services to the people. So I call upon leaders. Okay. This is the time to stand for the voice of the people, and we serve our country. On a serious note, let us stop being selfish. Somebody thinks of an election than serving people. You think of how to come back next, how to come back for another term, whether people have lost out or not. Whether you invest money in our constituencies or not, we are going to become the voice of the people without fear or favor.
First pause there for a second. I'll come back to you on the collection of signatures. And so how many people did you say are arrested, are still in prison, Derek?
There are over 100, I think 120 something. A few of them have been released, about 21 thereabout. The others are still in detention, but there are also those that are not known. There are people who have been picked from their homes, and their whereabouts up to today are not known in this shortest period. So as we count the 100 plus who are in jail, prisons, and different detention centers, there are those whose whereabouts are not known up to now. Yeah.
How was that figure of 120 arrived at?
Of course,
even the police has put it out.
The police has put out a figure, and also there is many people who have been taking stock on Twitter. At every person who has been arrested, their picture is put out there, their name is put out there. They give a short bio about that person, and the whole public has been. I have loved the whole vigilance about this whole thing. You find a whole chat of about 100 people saying this one is from here, was picked on this day, he's missing, or he's in this prison, free them, and things like that.
It started on Monday, so people were going to wherever they would say, because there would be information. This, I have been arrested. Sometimes people would tell you before their phones are taken away. So you have a group of people, some who are going to all the police stations. I think my colleague Godwin Toko on that day went to like 10 police stations. Even yesterday they were checking. So there's a team that is tracking these people and have been putting out there. But today even also the police has come up and given the statistics. Those that are still,
that's a good thing.
Those that are still in the police custody, those that are remanded, those that were let go at some point. Yes.
You're the lawyer here. So what what charge you said? Is it being idle?
Common nuisance.
So what sentence would you get from being a common nuisance?
There's another charge that we should first laugh at. There was a charge of attempted malicious something, like hate speech that someone was attempting
to bring out hate speech. Attempted hate speech.
You know, when you ask, you are the lawyer in this country, I tell people that one of the reasons I don't practice law is you can't practice law in a lawless country. No one cares about the law, and we have been told that there is a policeman at CPS, must be the OC station. I mean at Chira Road. On Wednesday, when some youth NGO leaders were picked up from a press conference in Ntinda. So our colleagues, the lawyers, went there and this police officer kept telling them, don't tell us about the law. The law is just on paper. For us, we don't care about the law. If it's democracy, our democracy is down there. So for us, we don't care about the law. And you have to look at it in this way. Peaceful demonstration is a right. It's a constitutional right. Let's start from there. Given right.
Two things maybe you should consider. The president has said, you, Agatha, you are demonstrating because you want to receive foreign awards.
I didn't demonstrate.
No, but he has said that you are an activist because you wish to receive foreign...
Did he name me as Agatha?
I think he did
really?
a little while ago. And also, I think he did, or he said people like you. And this time round he said, we shall see the foreign interest that has been supporting these people who are demonstrating. But also he points out that demonstrations ruin businesses because, for example, on the 23rd, people couldn't work, people that opened shops.
Oscar, you asked me about the law. Now, if you ask me about what the president is saying about me, he has his own right to say, because he has said that for forever. And if I can briefly comment about that, I have commented about it before here on this show, that the foreign interests, the imperialists card is played when we ask the questions about governance, about how resources are utilized in this country. Now, these same imperialists support our budget up to about 50%. When they
all your capital development budget is 100% funded by the colonialists.
Exactly. So now, when they are supporting government and its budgets, they are not imperialists. They are actually development partners. But when they support non-state actors, who are also as important in every country. It's not just Uganda, that you have a civil society that is also being supported, facilitated by the same people that facilitate you. But because they are raising civic awareness and telling Ugandans that, things are going wrong, can we demand for what is due to us? Can we demand for the services that we deserve as a country? Can we ask why one person takes
1.7
500 million, or why one person, the speaker Anita Among in this case, has a 54 billion budget for corporate social responsibility for an arm of government that is not a what? That is not a corporation. When there's no medicine in any of our hospitals, when the schools children are sitting on the floor, when they don't have...
If you can allow information.
Yeah.
In the budget for financial 2023, education as a sector had a budget of 636 billion. And government only warranted 326 billion. Half of the budget was given to a sector of education. half of the budget.
So look at those priorities and how we handle them. Then we go to you asking me about the law. Like I was telling you, demonstration, assembly, protest, peaceful protests are constitutionally guaranteed rights. There is on that day, there is no person they arrested who was violent, who was not peaceful. In fact, some of these protesters, whenever police would get to them, they would sit down and just chant. Now, you arrest those people, you are arresting them illegally because they have not committed any crime. You take them to detention. Oscar, and this is something I want to emphasize here. Between the time these people were taken to CPS at 11 to the time they were produced at Kampala Road Court at around 4:30 coming to 5, they had been beaten to a point that one of them, George Otieno Victor, does not walk. Now you are asking yourself, so we are talking about the law. You are breaking the law from the start. You are charging people with common nuisance and remanding them for weeks, yet you could have had that bail application that day. And you are saying at 6 p.m. you are saying it is too late, court cannot hear this. But people had been at Uganda Road waiting for these people to be produced there from 2 p.m. You had told them they'll come at 3 p.m. The distance between CPS and Uganda Road is like 100 meters, right? And you are you are sending people to prison by saying the court, it's too late for court.
Agatha, there is something also I think should be highlighted. I think it was around Thursday or Wednesday when UPDF put out a statement indicating that they have found out that some of their officers are sodomizing some of these victims who have been arrested. And for me, that is so horrible. I mean, like,
this was an official statement. Yes,
it was an official statement from the UPDF that they've gotten intel and information that some of those who had been arrested were being sodomized they named CMI, and then I think they named some detention centers, and I find that very, very horrendous, and it's something that should be of big concern to any sober-minded person in this country.
Terrible. Honorable Goreth Namuga, moving on to signatures. I guess the topic of demonstrations and those in prison will stay on until when, sometimes you think these stories are kept longer unnecessarily in the media houses. But looking at, there's been a big fight against corruption on many, many fronts. And I guess the protesters, that was one of them. But in Parliament, eventually, a petition motion has collected the signatures. This was a petition moved by mostly people in the NRM. And yet it took a long, long time to get all the signatures. Why did it take that long to get all the signatures at a time when Parliament is not looking good?
Actually, I should say this wasn't led by the NRM, but we saw that if they did it, because they have the numbers, it would be easier for them to support us. Otherwise, the opposition was also up in arms to ensure that we get those signatures, because in Parliament, it's the opposition that is in charge of accountability. Accountability on what government gives to the people is the responsibility of the opposition, because we did all the accountability committees. That's why whenever government fails to offer services, it comes back to us. Where are you as the opposition? Why are you not raising a red flag on what is being done here? So, yes, it is very regrettable and sad to ourselves for having taken all that long, because it's now a month plus. Have a parliament of 529 members and you fail to raise signatures of 177 in the fight against corruption. It is very embarrassing to those who voted us, because corruption, I don't think there is any one of us who condones corruption here. So why? You saw, if anybody followed the parliamentary session of Tuesday, you saw the sentiments that there was in that parliament, where the Honorable Rion stood up and asked the Speaker, Right Honorable Taeva, I want to ask, are we the one who voted you in that seat? I want you to ask Right Honorable Amongo Anite, are we the ones who voted her in that seat? How can you make us pass through a very rigorous process? Move up country, move here and there to collect signatures. One would ask, Why did the Speaker and the leadership of Parliament fail to give MPs space to deliberately debate on issues of corruption? Why weren't we given space? Because we are asking, should you go through raising of signatures for you to get an opportunity to discuss a certain matter and such an important issue on the floor of Parliament? I should inform the country that it's not a must that whenever you want a matter discussed, you must collect signatures. But the reason as to why that step was taken was because we are denied opportunity on the floor of Parliament. Every time we'd rise up to speak about the matter, the Speaker would say, I would give you time. Till when we felt enough was enough, let's go through force. When peace fails, force applies. And people have been called left, right, center, please don't sign. If you sign, this is this and this. And I've been told that even for those who signed, there are some groups they have been belonging to. You know, we belong to parliamentary WhatsApp groups. Some of those ones have been deleted to NRM groups where they think that that signed the censure motion have become rebels to the ruling government. So should we say that the ruling government is in support of corruption? But whether we've taken all that direction or not, we are ready for whatever is going to come out. Yes, the signatures have been raised, and we are moving. The Honorable Sechikubo, who was the lead petitioner, is going to move to submit this this petition to the clerk officially, so that it can be taken to the Speaker to be given space on the floor of Parliament. And the reason as to why we are collecting signatures is to have this matter debated. Just have the matter debated, not that we have succeeded in censuring. No, the 177 signatures are not a success for censuring for now, but at least to have the matter debated. And I'm very sure the country...
The petition was just to have the matter debated.
Yes, to have the matter debated, as simple as that. As simple as that, and you make your colleagues, a parliament, you know, the Right Honorable Anita Among once, when she became a speaker, she said, this is going to be a people's parliament. So a people's parliament that cannot allow or give space to the matters of the people to be discussed. You wonder where we are going as a country. So on Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday, Parliament was suspended to Tuesday. We are waiting. Because, you know, we have serious matters. And I want to call upon the voters. Ask your members of Parliament, where are they in this fight? How can you have an MP who cannot really, just a signature, to ask why are we mishandling resources of this country? We are not against person, but we are against the crime of misuse of public resources. And we want Parliament to be exemplary. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a basis for cleaning this country. Before we clean other areas, other sectors, other MDS, we must clean ourselves first. Then we move out there. I know it is not an easy war, but we shall walk the journey. It is full of so many challenges, very, very many challenges, because we are dealing with people who have the money, who can use it for anything, but we are ready to take that move, because I know when we are liberating a country, it takes some kind of sacrifice. It is a sacrifice, and we shall take it up.
It's very interesting that just collecting signatures to have a debate, you know, when you say it like that, I hadn't thought about it.
No,
that's all you wanted. So we look forward to the debate. What about the idea that some MPs might now withdraw their signatures?
It was Honorable Nanyondo Veronica that attempted to. The law does not allow. You signed, the signature is already there. She wrote a letter, but that couldn't hold. Legally, she had signed, and according to our rules of procedure, she could not withdraw. So that is why we still count her signature. It's part of the 177. And I know even
what was her reason for wishing to withdraw?
No, she was given a paper that looked to be an attendance list. It was an attendance list.
For shadow cabinet.
For shadow cabinet. She's not a member of the shadow cabinet. So it is funny and believable to whoever hears it out there, but that is the fact. But I'm telling you, Ugandans, be firm. The journey to liberating this country in line of sanity, in governance. Honorable colleagues, Agatha, I should inform you that we spend a lot of money in governance and the future as a program and human capital development. So we cannot leave this money to be put to waste. We must bring sanity to Parliament. Mr. Museveni must account to this country on any single coin that he spends on behalf of Ugandans. And lastly, we're talking about issues of demonstrations, and the youth, I want to thank them for having come up. So what is our role as Parliament? We are going to furnish you with information. And you people, these reports, the Auditor General's report is public information. Go to the website of the Auditor General. Get these reports.
We no longer have any faith in it. In those as
do
well.
you know what? For me, I believe in use the little that you've been given. Let's use the little that you've been given to push for more. Use it because it is available. There are issues that have been brought out seriously. For example, I can tell you something simple about the police. Police is totally down on issues of patrol cars that we're supposed to use at policing districts and police stations. Do you know the reason? Most of these patrol cars have been given to VIPs to serve as lead cars. So information enough, that one only, for you to understand that the office of the DPP is understaffed at a level of 15%. That is information enough for you to move to the office of the DPP, because this is why you have case backlog. Let us talk about it. You know, silence is also another challenge that we are facing. So for me, I applaud for everyone who comes up to speak about these issues. Get this information, the little that you have, use it perfectly well. We shall fight with the little that we have. And we are moving as accountability committees to also look into what the Auditor General does, the Office of the Auditor General. As you go for these audits, do you bring out the information that is relevant to bring out a true picture of how government expenditure comes out purely in line of spending? Because we've realized that some of these issues are left out. They are. But let's use the little information that there is on table to make officers accountable for whatever we do.
Do you now believe that Parliament will take it up? Because the Deputy Speaker, I saw some speech of his saying that Parliament has not been looking good, and this is the time now to recover the tarnished name of Parliament. So some action will be taken by the leadership of Parliament?
But in this case, don't bring an example of the Deputy Speaker, because the Deputy Speaker has a boss. The Deputy Speaker might be willing, but the Speaker is not willing.
Even him, he's not willing.
So let's. For me, I want to hear this as a commitment from the Speaker. You know, boss is a boss. So but if the Deputy
Speaker talks about it for the first time, perhaps he's been authorized to speak about it.
I heard because of the way Parliament was handled on Tuesday, I saw some funny messages, tweets, that the Deputy Speaker is fighting the Speaker because he gave space. You know how we suffered to access that space of talking about what had happened in Kavule. The Speaker was a bit hesitant. Even in his communication, I asked him, Right Honorable Speaker, how can we have the Zakes, the Chirumiras, our honorable colleagues, arrested from Kavule because they had gone to attend a press conference and you have them arrested? Why don't we have this as a matter to discuss? I personally, you saw how I was exchanging with some police officer who was, don't come here, don't get close to this place. I asked them, do we still respect multi-party dispensation? If I cannot hold a meeting at Kavule, our party headquarters, then do we still make sense as political parties? And remember, we wrote to them to hold a function in Kololo, celebration of 4 years. They said Kololo is under renovation. We said, let's go to our offices. But you cannot hold meetings from party offices. Then what else is left? So that is why I tell people, join us in the fight. Yes, we are doing something, but we need the voices of everyone who is concerned. You were talking about businesses of the private sector down there. Do you know how much government has frustrated the private sector? Leave alone these things of IFRIS. But we have domestic areas of close to 10 trillion domestic areas, and the validated are close to 4 trillion. Ugandans gave government business, you supplied, you worked on it, you constructed a road, and government has not paid you 4 trillion. So please, private sector, how else can you be frustrated if your businesses have been put to that level? You look at the Ministry of Works. Honorable Katumba Amala said it on the floor of Parliament. Ministry of Works has areas of close to 938 billion. It has a budget of close to 1 trillion, but it has domestic areas of 936 billion, close to there. That means if it opted to pay off its domestic areas, it would not do any business. So what kind of frustration does the private sector want? If somebody can frustrate your business to that extent, so can you survive? Businesses have closed because government has deliberately frustrated them. So the private sector, whether you want or not, you'll find us here. Lastly, because of the crisis that we have in the areas of the debt burden, let me tell you, first watch the performance of the budget for the financial year. This one, 24-25. You saw the first quarter releases. Government only released close to 21%. It ought to have been 25%. You ask, why didn't we release all the 25% of the first quarter release? And remember, there was no money for capital development. Under that release, none. Most of them were statutory obligations. So let us look at the way you'll have this budget, the budget implemented, because implementation is very important of this scam budget of 72 trillion. And you know where we are going? Because of challenges in accessing loans, Ugandans are going to pay taxes through every part of your body that has an outlet. You pay through the eyes, through the nose, through the mouth. Every outlet will pay, because that is the only option that government will have. We are seriously constrained when it comes to finances. One time, the Honorable Gobi said, we had a meeting of the National Economic Committee, Finance and the Budget. And he said, it's high time we sat down as these committees of parliament that discuss finances to face the reality, the true picture of where this country is in terms of finance. And if we don't do this, we are leading to a lane of financial distress. So, if whether you want to hear this or not, that is where we are going. So private sector, please, you better join us early, and we put sanity back to these offices so that we can save the little we can as we look forward to handling that big public debt.
So, Agatha, why, it's interesting. Why did it take this nearly 2 months to just collect 176 signatures from 500 people?
I've said here before about how this 11th Parliament is run on intimidation, threats, and patronage. So, by
the way, I should say people are posting on X, formerly Twitter, that letter was fake.
It was flagged?
Which letter?
The one Derek mentioned.
So I was saying that I have said it here before, actually, that the Parliament is run on patronage and intimidation of members. I know that for a fact. I know that there are those that have feared to criticize the Speaker or to participate in anything that is against her because they want to continue getting trips. And that happens. But
Serge Kubo was at pain to say this is not about the Speaker. No, continuously said it is not about the Speaker.
What happened?
Hoping it would get signed quickly.
He was trying to be clever. So the Parliamentary Commission is chaired by the Speaker. So she chaired and presided over giving that service award. He was trying to be clever so that, because he knew that if it is about the Speaker or if it is about what it actually is, that the person who presided over a meeting that gave out 1.7 billion shillings that is not premised on any law or policy was the Speaker of Parliament. Now, even if you explain or not, and these people would go to her and say that it's not us they are after, it is you. The commissioners kept telling her that. But she didn't even need anyone to tell her that. The WhatsApp group that Honorable Namuga here spoke of, the one where they are now ejecting people, is named Anita's Diehards, like AAA Diehards or something. We saw it, and someone wrote and said, this person today has signed they are a traitor. Let's eject them. This was an MP from Masindi who had said, for me, my people are insisting that I have to sign this petition. So it starts and ends with the Speaker. So there's intimidation, there's patronage, there's we want to continue eating, there's you understand. And when Serge Kubo started, it was even harder. It's the media that helped Serge Kubo, because the journalists would find these people in the corridors and say, have you signed? Why haven't you signed? And that's why these people looked at the House being adjourned for a month. The Parliament has a calendar it is supposed to work with. But Anita Among just has done away with it. She adjourns whenever she feels like it, brings it back whenever she feels like it. So this adjournment came as a shock to many. And the Serge Kubo group had seen it as a tactic to demobilize them, because being in Parliament here was helping. That there's this pressure, there's this social media pressure of people are saying, even Agather ran this campaign and say, text your MP and ask them why they have not signed a petition to fight corruption. So all this pressure is the one that eventually led to them getting these signatures. But you know how it happens. Do you remember the attempted censure of Muhwezi? Jim Muhwezi? Yeah, so normally when it's not an opposition person that they want to hand out like Zake, it's going to be difficult. There's money involved, there's paying people money. I know that during the censure of Namuganza, for example, people were being called and paid money to sign. So in this case, you have people that are being told, if you sign, you will have a problem with me. I know that this
Goreth
MP
Namoga
beg
is going
for-
on no trip. No trip will come her
Maybe she
way.
hasn't even gone on any, because you see, for her, this is not her first time. You should have seen her during the Computer Misuse Amendment Act. She was the only one who got up and opposed the Computer Misuse Amendment Bill when it was being passed. And they even shouted at her and asked her to apologize for so many things. So I am sure from that and many other things, she hasn't been going on trips.
We are going to stop for a break, and then we'll have Derek, and then we'll ask her if she's not been on a trip because of that. There's a tweet here on X. Proud of Africa dude says, as long as the likes of Agatha are focusing on the speaker in their alleged fight against corruption, it becomes a personal vendetta against her. All Ugandans have constitutional rights, and not only the protesters. Regular listener, we're going to stop for a breakfast. TWINAMASIKO, regular listener, says, protests, they come instead of you to tell Tinubu to step down. You're busy looking for sponsors of the protests. Oh God, let me give you names of the sponsors: hunger, inflation, fuel pump price, minimum wage, electricity, bad roads, and it continues. So let's stop for a quick break, and then we will continue discussion. Welcome back from the break. This is the Capital Gang. Derek, were you surprised that it took this long to get all the signatures?
I would have never been surprised.
Really?
No. I think I'm one of those few journalists who reached out in a one-on-one with Sechikubo, who is the lead petitioner in this. And we had a very long chat at Parliament, and that Q&A interview was published in the Daily Monitor. But even during the time I was having an interview with him, just seated there in that very dark evening, about 7, we spoke from 5 to 7. You would see people dodging his desk, MPs who were coming, someone coming from whatever 5th floor, whatever, comes down and then says, so you're still around? Okay, let me just pick some mobile money, then come back and sign. I mean, like, what does it take for someone to just get hold of a pen to sign that petition? So I was never surprised that this was going to take this much long. But one of the questions I kept asking is, because most petitions for such censorship, especially the backbench commissioners, has a time limit. No, not that. There's one that has a time limit. So one always held their hope on time, that as long as there's no time limit on this particular one, it's always going to be something that can drag forever. But finally, the Honorable Sechikubo would have to get those signatures. Two is, Honorable spoke about so many issues, especially including haranguing the House. Like, it has been on recess forever. Each time MPs come, spend 1, 2, 3 days, they put it on recess, like the case has just been in the recent past. He had very many reasons he was giving, and it was always going to be a daunting task for him to raise those signatures. But I think even if you've taken this forever to get those signatures, finally that they've gotten them, it's already statement enough. Just that motion is going to step on the floor of Parliament and get that attention that it needs. I remember one day when the Honorable Sechikubo stood up in Parliament to ask the Speaker that, can we have this debated? And I remember the Speaker responding with a word of nonsense. Don't bring that nonsense around. Shut up and stuff like that. I feel now the Honorable Sechikubo, as the lead petitioner, has gotten the chance to now carry on with the debate, have the debate as public as possible, because in most cases this debate has been held in cocoons amongst a few people, until when the Agatha has gone on social media, hold Twitter spaces on X and whatever. It has always been in informal fora. Now it's going to be on a formal platform of Parliament where actually the whole vice is embedded. And I hope that people are going to speak honestly and are going to speak truth to those people who are supposed to be spoken to. The four backbench commissioners are going to receive the truth from their fellow members, even some of whom have been to this.
There are people who still doubt that it actually will get onto the floor.
Of course, there's a process.
It is Gorethia who thinks that it shall get there, but
no, I think the biggest hurdle to skip is getting the signatures. From there, you just have to notice the Parliament. I mean, you send a notice to the clerk to Parliament, and then it's arranged. It's put on the order paper for discussion.
Information, it's not as automatic as that, because it's at the discretion of the Speaker to put it on the order paper or not. So still, that is for another day, but at least...
But for me, I feel the message has been sent, and that's a win. It's a very big win. But I am very sure many Ugandans hold the same sentiments as I do, that it would have never been an easy task. Some of the things that Agatha is speaking about here, of paying, calling, because also the Honorable talks about people who are being called, like the government chief whip. I think in one of their WhatsApp groups came out to send a statement to say that NRM should be out of this whole thing of signing signatures, giving signatures to this censure motion. So it was always going to be a hard task, but I applaud those people who have taken the bull by the horns, and whether it gets onto the floor of Parliament or not, at least history is going to stand with those people, that they gave all they could in the difficult circumstances to make sure that such an important issue is spoken about, is addressed in a formal way. Now, if we begin addressing corruption in Parliament, I know for sure that Parliament has been like the spark of this whole corruption talk in the whole country. But they are not the only institution that is corrupted. Every other institution in the country is corrupted, including private sector is also having issues. I know that the Agatha has also put out the campaign, the campaign against, I think it was the NGO exhibition, and a lot was unearthed. I mean, who on earth expects corruption fighters to be corrupt? You get? So when we begin with Parliament, I know that it's going to mirror the society. It's going to mirror the kind of debate that should be held in different agencies, in different parts of government agencies and all the other parts of the country. And even at individual level, it's going to mirror what exactly the kind of introspection that you should have as an individual for that kind of talk.
When you talk about unearthing, it will be our next line, unearthing. But these websites actually exist, so listeners and people listen to Gang and provide quick information, just as someone provided information that alleged UPDF letter is fake. Louis Jadong has sent two websites of missing people. One is an analytics and the other one is a missing persons website. So, impressed that people can do such things quickly. But talk about unearthing. You're the active journalist here, Derek, more than Agatha maybe.
She's also still very, very active.
But unearthing. How do you unearth a casino on top of a building? So we have corruption home and abroad. So what is that story?
It is laughable and
true story though. We begin there.
Very true.
Not fake.
Not fake. Daily Monitor ran it as a cover. I think on Thursday, and all parties that have been mentioned in this story were reached out to, and they had a comment in that story. At least Daily Monitor hasn't been dragged to court. for bringing out a fake story. And as we stand now, I know that there have been teams dispatched to go and investigate the matter. There were supposed to be arrests done on.
Start with the old journalistic styles of the 5 W's: what, where, when.
So apparently, it's hard. Where do I even begin from? So there is the minister in all this, whose name is very, very familiar with everyone, has put a casino on top of the building, an embassy building where he stays, and the casino was brought in as equipment.
Machines.
Equipment machines. Machines were shipped into the country, and that was how they dressed them. So the machines are put on the building, and then there's whistleblowers all over that the minister is running a casino on an embassy building. So there's teams dispatched from within the country. Security is involved. I think they go there and investigate the matter, find out that there's a casino that is operating, and then they contact the government of Uganda. The government of Uganda also deploys investigators who go to investigate the matter and find the truth that yes, there's a casino running. There's an order to arrest some people, including the minister, I guess, but the arrests are not effected, and again, it's alleged that through corruption that the arrests are not done. But as we stand now, it is still a very big developing story, and we don't know how it's going to end, because it's also a very big corruption scandal, and probably tomorrow it shall be the story on the streets on whether this minister is going to be censured, is going to be dropped, or whatever. But as it is now, I know that government has deployed investigators, private investigators who are investigating this matter, and they will come out with a report, which we are waiting for so far. Yeah.
Honorable Namuga, ministers don't get censured in Uganda. Derek should know that. But it seems that
they get censured, don't they?
I don't know, and maybe of no consequence. But this seems like real fiction.
I told you you are yet to see even that you don't expect to appear, all to be part of actions and behaviors of diplomats. Any behavior outside this country, when you leave this country, as I should inform Ugandans that when every Ugandan who is a diplomat travels, you are received in a country where you've gone as a diplomat. When it comes to official representatives, the way you are treated, at times we feel as if we are not fit for it. Issues of diplomacy in this country, I think if Ugandans have been following, we've gone through so many scandals, a lot of scandals. And it should come back to government. We've not given a lot of attention to these diplomatic missions, where even when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to the buildings and how they look, issues of repairing them, even facilitating some of these diplomatic missions has been a problem. Agatha, the Auditor General has revealed that we have a debt of 41 billion subscription fees to those international bodies that we belong to. 41 billion. That is why you have delegations that leave the country and go to attend those conferences, and you are put in a gallery. All when you sit as a prime minister, your button is flagged red. You will not speak anything. So we have suffered in line with diplomacy, and it is something that is seriously threatening the image of this country. Sometime back, when Honorable the commissioner, the one that we are yet to censure, the Honorable, I'm forgetting his name, Honorable Seranyi. When Seranyi talked about the flooding of the airport, everyone came out and condemned. How do you embarrass our country? But it's here in Entebbe. Entebbe, just in Entebbe, somebody is taken to be, tainting badly the picture of this country. How do you treat that Entebbe has flooded? But here we are, move out of the country, and we cannot behave as diplomats. How can you have a casino? It's sincerely, with all due respect. But this all comes, how do we have these ministers appointed? How do we have these diplomats appointed? Because your father has died and you seem not to have employment, please come and occupy this space. You've been a serious cadre of the NRM and you've lost an election, please come and be our ambassador here. You've been a strong supporter.
Isn't that normal practice? That's how Americans also appoint their ambassadors.
But
and
it's
so on.
not a matter of you've lost. Look into the details of the trail of the character, behavior of the person that you are bringing into office. We must look into all this. But because we've failed short of love for this country, the patriotism that the NRM government speaks to, that is why we don't even bother on who occupies which space. I've been telling you, we are going to suffer more in the line of diplomacy than what you are seeing. When the Gen Zs were rioting in Kenya, our building was targeted. The embassy, the Uganda house in Nairobi. Do you know, we have just spent close to 10 billion in renovation of that building. But do you know how long it had stayed? A very shabby building in the middle of the city, Uganda house, and very, very shabby, looking very ugly. But it is the face of the government of Uganda in Nairobi. So, honorable, colleagues and countrymen, we have a serious challenge when it comes to governance of this country and the way we prioritize what to do and what to put where. This does not only affect operations in our country here, but foreign also. We have so many opportunities we have lost as a country because of the way we constitute the so-called diplomats. How these offices are filled, we have failed to get opportunities of employment. It was in the report of the Minister of Foreign Affairs where we had opportunities that were not fully tapped into because offices are not, first of all, staffed. We have incompetent people in those offices that don't know how to do what to do. Because these diplomatic missions are for the interest of the country, not necessarily occupying those spaces to go and sit in Dubai or sit in Germany. Before we concentrate on knowing why should we have Agather in this space, Agather should occupy, should be an ambassador in this country because Agather has ever been this. Agatha has ever been this, and we are sure when this space is occupied, Uganda will have this, will reap this out of this diplomatic relation with such a country. So if you say a casino, you are yet to see more. That is. You are. If these ones do a good job to unearth whatever is happening there, a lot is done in those missions. A lot is done. And if Ugandans can pick interest and bring out those issues, it will be, first of all, an area for Parliament to concentrate and ensure that, first of all, we fully, and I don't know, I'm not so sure of who, but I think it's Parliament that approves ambassadors. When Mr. Museveni appoints, do those names come to Parliament? We need to see. They don't. It is a direct appointment. Yeah. So we also need to look into that. How are these ones appointed apart from the appointing authority?
Even the ones that come to Parliament, just to give you information, there's nothing that ever changes. You have started approving them omnibus. Judges are 15 and you say you have passed. Yet the law says vetting. You look into what you are saying: character, qualification, experience, criminal record of each individual. It can't be so. Don't.
Do you know, Agatha?
Don't speak
for
as
me,
if passing through Parliament would have made a difference.
In life, I believe in structure first. Have it in place so that you can have a person to hold accountable. Because if we have everything in one's hands, then that makes us vulnerable. Yes. So if there is a challenge in that area, let's have some amendments so that we can have some other parties to vet. Yes, if it comes to Parliament and Parliament doesn't do its work, then Parliament should be held accountable for some of these messes. So for me, when it comes to diplomatic issues, we still have serious issues with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Serious ones. And staffing is one of them, and the way the office bearers are appointed.
Agatha?
What's the question? We are still talking about the casino in Dubai.
You probably have been there already.
To Dubai?
To the casino.
No, please. So Honorable Namuga was talking about the diplomatic blunders that we have, this not being the first one. And do you know what it reminded me of? A diplomat that was deported from the US over domestic violence. But when he got here, he was deployed as an ambassador in Juba, deputy ambassador in Juba. That should tell Derek, who thinks that there's something, that there will be censorship of Honorable Jeje Odong or any other minister that will be found to have been responsible for that we do not punish wrongdoing in this country. There's no deterrency. We applaud that. We punish people who are speaking up against corruption. We punish people who are unearthing, as they called it. When the president sits and I think now for like the 10th time in just a space of how many months from the time of the State of the Nation address? Just one and a half. Museveni has talked about people like us. So 10 times. Those are the ones I will crush. For the corrupt, I can forgive them. They are corrupt by mistake. But people that go and what did he call it? That are agents of imperialists and now foreign agents. So that's what we punish. No one has ever been punished for being corrupt. That's why you have his cabinet full of people that have been involved in corruption. That is why, like I said, you have someone who commits a diplomatic blunder like that, and they get here and they are sent somewhere else. That's why they just recycle. They will remove you and put you here. Even in police, by the way, the police officers that are found to be involved in abuse of people's rights, abuse of the law, they are just moved. There's a police officer that was jailed in Bukedea over the LC5 by-election. He's now the commander of police at Parliament. There is a police officer in Hoima that the DPs of Hoima was involved in the illegal evictions of the people that were evicted in Hoima, who up to now, for a whole year, over a year, have been homeless, sleeping in church, under trees and all that. These are about 500 families. That police officer was also, that DPC was also just transferred. So there has never been in this country a culture of holding people accountable. It's not just the speaker, and it brings me to that, Oscar. I promise that I will respond to that person on Twitter. I have been accused of Agatha has a personal problem with the speaker so many times. And it got tired at some point, so no one even will take a person like that seriously. But just for purposes of responding to that, you are probably saying that all Ugandans now have a personal vendetta against the speaker, because in the protests that are both physical and online, the corruption in Parliament is the biggest, is the one being spoken about. And that is to... I do not understand how people think that we are going to talk about the mismanagement, the maladministration of Parliament, the corruption in Parliament, without talking about someone that heads it, that heads that Parliament. It's just not possible. But also when that person is actually personally, individually involved. I have done so many other things. Every time I write about something else, my friends say, among these people will not see that. The other day I was...
I'm at the point of saying I'm about to switch off Agatha's microphone.
and he always does that. You fear the truth, Oscar. So the other day I was writing about a person that was illegally and unfairly fired from prisons. And I even put a chat between me and the prison's head there that, he didn't take this seriously. He was playing it like a joke. Also, I was in an exchange with the Attorney General over some anomaly in compensation, where he writes a letter saying people who have land in wetlands are not eligible for compensation, but in a different case, he allows compensation. So there is nothing we have not done. me and Agora team, we have done exhibitions about the health sector, about police and security, about potholes, about NGOs. But when it comes to Parliament, that's when they remember, oh, it has become against Anita Mung. But also they forget the central role that Parliament plays. And you have an MP here, we can get back to her, that, like she said earlier, it's the one that is supposed to oversee all these other, even the corruption in the other places, even the abuse that is happening in other areas, other departments. It's the role of corruption of Parliament. So why don't we start with the Parliament and clean it up so that now we have a Parliament that plays its oversight role on these other, including the executive. So I hope that that's clear, but also
okay.
I don't care.
And someone here sends a message, Stephen. He says, Capital Gang team, good program. Just to inform you that ambassadors are appointed by President and vetted by Parliament to determine their suitability. That is Buraha. And then the UPDF has reached out that letter is fake. Derek, take note.
All right.
Yes, you wanted to chip in, Honorable Goreth, before we go to final topic.
I wanted to a little add on Agatha's issue, but also to update Ugandans that our embassy in Nigeria, our ambassador has been using a taxi for the last 8 years. Your ambassador uses a taxi to
because he has no vehicle.
Hey. So issues of diplomatic engagements, there is a lot to be done. I've told you.
Maybe it's because we are poor.
No, not because we are poor. Then we need to look into the missions that we have. You either reduce them or, because if you cannot fund them, can you imagine an ambassador, a representative of a country in Algeria moving by taxi for the last 8 years? It's very embarrassing. And we have very dilapidated structures in Dar es Salaam, so many countries, dilapidated structures. But in addition to what Agatha has spoken to, Ugandans, for me, I hate being too personal on somebody. Before I look at a person, I look at an issue that is being discussed or the area of contention. When it comes to administration, you cannot talk about Parliament and you leave out the Speaker. Even if you don't mention the name of the Speaker. When they talk about Parliament, Parliament is the Speaker. For me, when I used to work in government, they used to tell us, if you're a public servant and you hold a card of a public servant, everywhere you move, you are government. That is why most of the times I fight for the sanity of public servants who are meagerly paid. That discrepancy in salaries between the traditional government structure and the authorities. So you cannot talk about Parliament and automatically the picture of the Speaker does not come in. You cannot talk about the executive and Mr. Museveni is left out of it. So let us be objective and look at the issues at hand. We need to be objective and bring sanity to these institutions that are supposed to oversee. I'm telling you, Parliament oversees the utilization of your resources in the whole country. So just imagine, for you want the MDS to be accountable, but for you cannot account. So where do you get the moral authority to face URA, to face these authorities, to face the ministries, to make them account for the little they have got for you have scandals all over in papers? So I think objectively, for the good of our country, let's have these matters discussed without personal, making it personal. Let's not put it to this level. Lastly,
for you are not going, Honorable Goreth Namoga is not going on any trip soon. So.
No. By the way, no. Let me clear on that.
Yes.
Traveling on trips is trips are allocated to committees, and normally what the committee leadership does, they look at active members of committees. For example, I was in the budget committee, and once you are going, that's why I was speaking loud on missions, because we used to visit them before allocation of funds. We used to move there. I was on the ICT committee, and I was the shadow minister for science, innovation, and technology. To some extent, I would move, but
the speaker shouldn't be blamed about
issues of trips. I think where the challenge has been is there has been that general complaint that money for travels for committees has been withdrawn and it is centralized. That is where the challenge has been. And to some extent, the Speaker has her own budget for trips. So the Speaker, during her movement, she can select a few of the MPs to move with. So I think that's the whole issue. The Speaker she's at liberty. She has that discretion of moving with some MPs as she moves out of the country for diplomatic engagements. So it's at her discretion. But I've been moving reasonably. I've been moving purposely for the service of this country.
Okay, message here from Joseph in Kampala says he loves the discussion on the foreign service, and then he makes an allegation that that institution started running as a mafia way back a long time ago, mainly because government is to blame for funding of embassies, high commissions, and diplomats. Someone seems to echo what you're thinking, Goreth. And then Levi Eyaro doesn't like you much on social media, Agatha. I guess you know. Says, Agatha lied to you on financial support. They started a fundraiser on the 23rd, and the contributions were directed to her number, which was provided on one of the spaces. So that's Levi Eyaro. Pardon?
Lied to you means what? You know, like, don't read things and you don't let us respond.
No,
to
you
have. We are letting people get away.
I've read to you because you're here.
But he says lied how? You know, and I've seen that on social media. The reason Eyaro, I don't know if that's his name, doesn't like me is because there are people that we know that are there to fight for the corrupt, to fight, you know, to attack those who have raised an issue about these leaders. So this has been there, how I have eaten money for the protest or something like that. Now, people started asking if I can receive funds for bail, right? There has not been any bail hearing. So how do you say I've eaten the money if the purpose for which you are collecting that money has not yet even happened yet? So let it happen, and then they say Agatha received money, but it's not there, and you say that, but that is the, you know, it's the tactics they have used
but
for a
Oscar,
long time.
If Agatha received the money for protests, why don't you look at the reasons of the protests? In Uganda, we said, Stani Katebe. Because we failed to do our work, and these ones are working us, and you... So, for me, Agatha would not be an issue. The issue would be, you, Namuga, has failed to do your work.
Exactly.
You know, the guns should be put back to us.
You know, Honorable, we've said that many times.
You know?
When we put out information, and then you pay people to attack us and say Agatha sleeps with men. We are saying, can we respond to issues? Is
You're
the
lucky
information
you sleep with men.
is the information Agatha is putting out
this
right?
is a morning show, ladies and gentlemen.
Is the information false? Let's deal with that. Now, after we say it's not false, can we respond to it? I told one government official that was calling to meet with us and all that, and I'm saying, no. You know, for me, I put out information. And my team, we've put out information about abuse, mismanagement, corruption. Now, people like you and you, other agencies, the agencies you lead, were supposed to act. You did not act. Young people have decided, after seeing that this government will not act, to act on that information. So this, for me, that's as far as I go. And Agora, in as far as this protest is concerned, for me, I've put out information. We have a government that should have acted on that information that didn't. You have a people that have realized that this government, we are on our own. This government will not care about services, about our money being misused when we don't have these social services. And they've said we are going to go and do what? So me, you engage those. Me, I do not see why, where I come in. Engage the Gen Zs that have said we are going to protest.
Okay.
I think we are very lucky in our time to have the likes of Agatha, Dr. Spire Sentongos, because some of us who are because of the kind of Agatha is still an active journalist, and she does it in her own way, but there is information that I get as a person to use in my stories, and I mind a lot on how I put it out. So it, in one way or the other, like puts me...
You're saying responsibly?
Yeah. But we are lucky that we have the Agathas who get the information and put it out uncensored. And no, it's not. And it's not like they don't care about being responsible. And it's not like they are not responsible. Very responsible human beings. They are doing.
It's that we are not fence sitters.
Yes.
It's that we are not afraid that that if we put out information, government will come and close the Daily Monitor.
Yeah.
Because that's what it does.
Yeah.
You know.
Or the Capital Gang.
Or close the Capital Gang, or chase someone from the Capital Gang. We do not care about that. We don't
Yeah.
fear that. So we are not irresponsible
No.
in putting out that information. We verify it and put it out there. We are just not. We are independent. We don't have anyone holding something above us and
Yeah.
saying, "Put this out and you will not have Agora." We have said, "Let them close Agora."
Honorable Namugo, it is just me who says now let me switch off
Yes,
Agatha's.
he's always threatening to switch me off.
No, you give disclaimers, but whenever I come here, I really look at how funny at times we become. The Agathas who give out information become a problem, and they are taken to be criminals in the country. And you have never talked about people who participated in removal of the term limit, removal of the age limit. I'm telling you, those are more of criminals. Age limit, term limit, touch the constitution whenever you want, and you paid attention to castigating the Agathas. People must know that we have the Access to Information Act. You are at liberty to receive information, and once you request for it and it's not given, I mean, there is a procedure and a process on how to get it. So we should stop, I call it being micro. Do they want you to go to the bush? Should you behave like the NRM government that went to fight in 1980 because they were aggrieved? So this is the only space that we have in this generation. Social media speaks louder, and use it. For me, if you can even go ahead to put the source document for that information, more especially if you get this information from such a document, indicate this according to this report, so that people can know that you are just a conduit to enlightening those who have not, had access to what you are speaking to. Otherwise, what they are doing is perfectly well. As long as you have evidence for what you are speaking about, for me, I think it's a better platform than going to the bush to fight. To start fighting your country. This is a better bush than going to lose lives out there. So do it.
I think just
you made people laugh, Gore.
Yes.
Because someone says, Banange, so does the ambassador in Nigeria carry Uganda's flag in his pocket? and sticks it on whichever taxi he boards.
He keeps switching it from one taxi to another. I think times have really changed. A few years ago, maybe a decade or so, when social media had not become the thing that it is now, many of us would be wondering how exactly to express ourselves, especially when we cannot go to the streets or when we cannot access the bush, like the Honorable Groth says. But now, it's vivid that there is a space that we can sit and discuss, and people are hearing, and they begin getting uncomfortable. That we get on our phones and begin just saying, and I liked that whole campaign of send your minister a message. Someone sends a message, one minister abused them in response, and a minister became so abusive in response. That means they have gotten the message.
Well, someone in Bara says the protests have worked because the Sechikubo signatures were only achieved after the protests.
You get? And again, social media has opened a whole Pandora of a generation that I don't know whether the old guard is ready to deal with it. On Sunday last week, I think it was Saturday, the Daily Monitor did a story saying old generation ruling the young generation. And the clash that there is has been very vivid in all countries around. We saw it in Sudan, we saw it in Egypt, we are seeing it in Kenya. Now it's in Uganda.
Coming to Uganda.
And because of
but
that.
But all along we thought Uganda is not Kenya.
No, Uganda is Africa. And these things are happening in Africa.
But
So
you can benchmark from Kenya. That is also benchmarking.
No, but we have
the point they were making is Ugandans. We are not protesters. We don't protest.
We have citizens who work in
sleep.
Kenya and sleep in Uganda. We have citizens who sleep in Uganda and work in Kenya. So they can go and do things the other side and cross over in the morning in Busia, and and those things happen.
John in Kampala says, if Otieno was on a gang, he would have reminded the gang that the diplomatic buildings and hospitals in an advanced state of dilapidation were built by UPC, and NRM has failed even to paint them. And he sent that message to me, so I've replied to him and said, and had I known Abdul and Lydia would do a no-show, I would have invited Joseph because he was available. So we had a topic here for discussion, and I'll move it to maybe next week of URA. But Honorable Namuga, good things are happening. Maybe Kamala Harris in America. Who saw that coming? And you know, if Lydia had come, would have had 3 women on the table today. Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. Is there a lot of people are saying, now that's a done deal for Donald Trump?
You know, in politics, you cannot have a done deal at the beginning. It's very hard. Things can change. So for him politically, you cannot say that it's a done deal for now. Let us just watch the space. It's not a done deal as such, because they still have time to beef up. You cannot say it's a done deal. Not at all.
You know, when I was writing this topic as a possible topic, I was thinking of you, because I had you once on Capital Gang and said, you know, someone can see a small woman, but when she starts speaking, you are finished.
No, not certainly not.
But do you think she has a chance, a fighting chance, Kamala Harris?
No, she can. You know, when you look at the history of politics, it all depends on strategy. Did you know how no one knew that Biden would fail? Because the source of all this was the debate that totally brought Biden down. So,
just the one debate?
Yes, just the one debate. And the man, everyone looked at Biden as if he has never done anything good. But it is something that brought him down in a single
people
day.
Have been using a word. Whatever he does, they can't. You can't unforget.
And that is politics. You can put up a good show today, but next time you flatter and everything is forgotten. So I think Harris still has a chance. They just have to reorganize. And because also Trump, you cannot say Trump is one of the best candidates, also has his issues. So if the Republicans are smarter, something can be done. You cannot say that all is gone.
the Agatha, suddenly, just overnight, it seems like the Democrats have the young president and the Republicans have the old president.
Yeah.
But maybe the old president has a bigger chance of winning, as people are saying that this has made it easier for Trump to win.
Well, I always hesitate to comment about politics of other people. I always think we have enough on our plate. Let's deal with that. But briefly, is
but if Namugaya tells you that your development budget is supported 100% by those people.
Well, I know that. I know that their foreign policy is not determined by who is in office.
And the president of Uganda said you are funded by those very people. So,
Oscar, they are not like us. This country is run as a garden of a person. The other countries are not like that. So the foreign policy, if it is in place, whoever comes in will still fund us, the agents of imperialists, I think. Even when he tried, Trump was president just not long ago, and his wish was to ignore everything else happening, focus on America, but that didn't happen. But earlier in April, I was thinking, America is not so different from us. If you have to choose if your choice is between Trump and Biden, it was because of the age and whatever was happening. All this forgetfulness started some time back. Now, when the Democrats saw, and they had really tried to insist on holding on to Biden, but I think some people after that debate realized that, and I think it's the fear that we are having a weaker candidate against Trump. When you bring in Kamala Harris, when Hillary was running against
Hillary Clinton,
against Trump in 2016, everyone thought Hillary is a better candidate in many ways, but Hillary didn't win. And I realized that even in the countries that have developed in terms of civil liberties, in terms of gender equality, they have not yet also reached there. It could have had a lot to do with her being a woman. Now, when you see Kamala Harris, who is not just a woman but also a woman of color, you want to see another history like we saw with Obama in 2008, and I will wait to see that. I don't want to speculate, but it will be a woman of very firsts indeed, and maybe it will be a good thing to see. but I am very skeptical.
And as,
Well,
and as
I was
women,
about to say, you don't sound very hopeful.
no, and as women, we should push for that. Though, to some extent, fellow women have disappointed us in several arenas. So,
And you are an MP.
Not to some extent.
Eh.
For us in Uganda, the women movement has not benefited us at all. We have how many women in big offices? Vice President, Speaker, Prime Minister. But still, in fact, they are the ones that are doing the worst things than the men. It might be because they are fewer, but remember when the Prime Minister took gym instructors and whoever to a convention in a delegation of 70 or 90 people? So I think we need to maybe look at that, not just put there women for us to fill the positions with women, but maybe think about what role are the women playing in uplifting other women, but also in the development of this country. Miriam Matembe likes to say that they are in positions of power with no power.
John again says, someone said the boy fired a bullet at Trump, but it killed Biden instead. That has been going round.
It was a very, very big headline, I think, in the New York Times. I don't know. It was a very big headline. But there is always a tipping point, Oscar, in everything.
People can send messages. And again, Derek, you are the one to verify. Here, Tony says in 2011, nationals received supplies from a country under international sanctions. These supplies were illegally brought into the country using the diplomatic bag. Had you heard of that?
That story was very, it came out in about 2011, 2012. It was a very big story. So those diplomatic bags have not just arisen now. They have always been there's always been a question around around those. Now I remember bags, yes. So like the ladies have said, when you see Kamala coming into this whole equation, it is a breath of it brings fresh breath to the campaigns in the US. Like I was saying, that there's always a tipping point. I think Joe Biden has not just started, did not just start from the debate. Joe Biden has tripped physically, emotionally, and even or used in his speech so many times, tripped on stairs so many times and things like that. Not because he was always physically weak or whatever, but there's always a tipping point when someone needs to leave the stage, and I think every good dancer knows when to leave the stage. A thing that many Africans do not know. Joe Biden does a moral thing that is expected of every grandfather in this world that should do, and the coming of Amala brings fresh breath, first to the campaign, to the dynamics of the world that are happening right now. The young generation against the old generation. She's not as young as you'd expect, but she's one of those people you'd call young old. You get, and that for me would be something that would bring another Barack Obama, like Agatha said, and bringing another dynamic of a woman in that space. So I think Donald Trump shouldn't go home yet. I think if everything is held constant, ceteris paribus, Donald Trump has a better opponent, a more dangerous opponent.
You think so?
I feel so, because you have Trump. I mean, you have Biden, whom you're going to throw all kinds of jabs against in terms of leadership, in terms of health, in terms of physicality, and his age. Of course, they are all old, in their late 70s, 80s, and stuff like that. But she now comes and brings another dynamic. Now you have to go back to the drawing
She
board.
is Biden's vice president,
You
so
get.
you can still throw the same jabs at her,
You throw
right?
the same jabs, but then there is an extent to which you can throw those, because then you don't want to say we are tired of these old people, they should go away. Now the rhetoric has to change.
Yeah.
These young people are coming up now to take spaces. They don't have experience. They don't have, even when you know that she has been the vice president. So for me, there's a silver lining on every dark cloud.
I'd actually not known that because when you, over these years, Joe Biden he doesn't really throw punches. He's a very polite old man.
You get?
But
Yeah.
but Kamala Harris,
Yes. Now that is what you're going. That's what you're going to deal with now. You have to go back to the drawing board. Now you have a Trump is going to.
she has
throw
already
you a
said
jab.
she's a prosecutor.
You get,
And she
she's
knows
going
how to deal with
and she's going to respond in almost equal measure because of the kind of her personality, her energy, her thought lines and stuff like that. So I feel Trump shouldn't go home yet.
Okay.
He has an uphill task.
Yes.
Did you guys see a cartoon by Spire asking where Biden was saying, I have bed farewell.
Yes.
And there was Museveni the other side saying, where is the country going? Don't you have a son?
Don't you have a
so
twisted son?
Don't you have a son? So when this one said, even a good dancer knows when to leave, because you realize that for us, we have not so good dancers who don't even want to leave.
Agatha, you always want to domesticate things. We were in America. Don't bring us back to this dilapidated country. Let's stay in America.
You're not allowed to say dilapidated country. But someone this is Sebs Ronnie again on X, formerly Twitter. It says it was probably going to be a walkover for him against Biden. But have you noticed that it is the Republicans that are mostly angry about the change? As we conclude, Honorable Namuga.
As we do conclude, basically for me as a leader, my major interest was issue of the protests and generally how this country is being run by those who are trusted with the power. The liberators have become...
So you think the protests were successful?
Successful? Not for now. Not. We still have a lot to do. They were not successful. Yes, I applaud the youth who have done something. But for me as a leader, my success of the protests will be the time when we shall have the motion discussed on the floor of Parliament. Because for me, I'm better off with the solution on the side of the wrong makers. Because we are the one in the wrong. So for me, it will be my success as a leader if something is done on my side. I don't feel any proudness in having our youth in prisons. Not. We are creating more chaos. When you hold them, you are creating families that do not have caretakers. I looked at the profiles of those that they had arrested, and there was one of those. Yes, they were businessmen, they were doctors, but there is one who was just they said, not a pedestrian, but it looked as if somebody who has nothing to do. So with these arrests, it's a big blow to us as leaders. It puts so many question marks on how things are being done. So for me, my success of the protest will be the time when we shall have a very deliberate and conclusive discussion of issues of corruption on the floor of Parliament and looking out for action on the implementers. That is Mr. Museveni and his cabinet. And this is, I'm very optimistic that this is going to now bring a bigger debate on how do you allocate public resources. How do you have these office bearers appointed? For me, that is the bigger debate I need. Actually, for me, it will be a success if those big challenging questions are answered by we, the leaders. And for now, I just applaud the youth who have come to awaken us. They have done their part, but the tools, they don't have the tools. And I would request police that the force you use to stop these protests should be the same force that you would have used to accompany these protesters to Parliament to take their petition. Because you had everything at your disposal. Accompany them to bring their petition to Parliament. What would you have lost? Because we are in the same bracket. Police is suffering in every angle. They are the ones crying for the welfare. They are the ones crying for the increment in salaries. So it's better for you to just ensure that we follow the rule of law. We shall all, at the end of the day, we shall all enjoy out of this struggle.
Agatha,
So
as we conclude.
Oscar, I think it depends on what everyone calls success, on what everyone hoped to achieve.
There are universal definitions of success.
No, they are not actually. So I'll give you an example that now some of the words of Dr. Besigye make sense. So when Dr. Besigye would continue participating in elections, but calling them sham and futile, whenever he would be asked, he would say, we don't participate in them to because we think we stand a chance. We participate in them because it's the only time we are allowed to mobilize. It's the only time you'll talk to people. It's so for me, in that way, that I started by saying that many things have been exposed, that this lie that we have a government that is interested in fighting corruption. I think the headline of Daily Monitor today is Judiciary on Trial. You want to keep sensitizing as many people as possible about what is going wrong in this country, and these protests, and for me, I don't think we should even count them as done yet, because they're still ongoing. They're online now, and people will come to court on Monday, on Tuesday, I think. Tuesday and Wednesday and the other week, and you will see that it's not business as usual. So you are sensitizing, you're showing what is wrong here, you're showing what is wrong with police, you're showing what is wrong with the judiciary, where a prosecutor runs away at Nakawa and doesn't want to hear, the bail application cannot be heard because she has run away. And that keeps getting into Ugandans, and the more these things are happening, the more Ugandans are realizing that actually there is something wrong and there's something different that needs to be done differently. I think that is I would call that a success, that we continue to mobilize, that we continue to raise awareness about things that are happening, and maybe thinking of other ways of dealing with them and re-strategizing how do we handle this. And the government is reaching out. They want to negotiate with people. There are so many successes. There are many things happening actually behind the scenes that I don't think I should talk about now. But also, like I said earlier, there's that togetherness, the solidarity that Ugandans have had. There's that support that all Ugandans are coming together, and the government will fear that. We'll be afraid that Ugandans are coming together against them. Thank you, Oscar.
Very conclusion.
Honorable Namuga, yes, Honorable Namuga. Yes, misses a very big point. But one of the reasons as to why these protests are happening is because they were never allowed to debate these matters on the floor of Parliament. But on Tuesday, I saw every sentiment of every MP, including those that are even in NRM, and they were given that audience. They were given that audience. They were given all the space to speak. And for me, Honorable should be celebrating that, because it has always been a fight in Parliament, including even this censorship motion that's going on. It's because you have not been given that space. The mere fact that the Honorable Taiwa listened, gave time, and people threw out all kinds of all manner of jabs is a very big win. That now this matter has gone to where it should actually be. And the voices that are out here are nothing but have been the reason as to why that debate happened that way on Tuesday. And for me, even if it stopped today, I know that the debate is going to continue, because now it has picked momentum and people are now happy to listen
they
to
will
the most.
divert you. Certainly they'll come with a diversion, and so that's why we have to continue pushing.
Yeah, for me, I think there's success already, and even more success is coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're out of time. Thank you very much for listening to Gang. Just a quick question to you, Honorable Namuga. So do you think these closures of Parliament were to do with that censure, with that petition for signatures?
No, it was basically because of the protests. One, the denial for NUP to have its press conference, and the arrests of the youth. So that sparked off the issues of the censure, because the youth were protesting because of issues of corruption in Parliament. So that's why the whole debate came in. But I should inform you, it wasn't just given on a silver plate. You saw how we suffered. Even the speaker, gave this opportunity last when everything had been concluded. So we still have to push for more space. That's why I'm saying it's not yet Uhuru. Not. We need something bigger and better, because it is not supposed to be a negotiation as it was. It needs to be, needs to be given item 1 on the order paper. Why does it come last? It should be item 1 given all the day to be discussed about.
We look forward. So thank you, the listeners of the Capital Gang. I am Oscar Semoyamsoke, and I shall see you next week.